Hey Lisa, I'm gonna try to tell you my squirrel story. Okay, I won a liar's contest once. There was only like 3 contestants, but I did win. Okay, I got the blue ribbon somewhere. I lost, I'm sure. All right, so here goes. Um, I'm from Kentucky. Okay, this was in Indiana when I told the story. I'm from Kentucky, and my grandfather was a coal miner, and he was a die-hard Democrat. And because in the old days, Democrats were the ones that did the unions for the coal miners, and the coal miners were really misused, so the union really helped them. So he was a diehard Democrat. Well, his friend was a diehard Republican, and there was uh, a vote for the president, and the Republican guy wanted. It said my grandfather said Stevenson was going to win the election, and I can't remember who won. But anyway, so his friend said that it was going to be the Republican. Well, the bet was the loser would pull the winner in a little red wagon for 20 miles from Owensboro to Hartford, Kentucky. But there's one big hill called Hooper Hill or Hoovy Hill. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, we know that Stevenson did not get. I'm sorry about the beeping that's in the background here. Stevenson did not win. We know that. So my grandfather had to carry this man in a little red wagon from Hartford to Owensboro. And my grandmother built a harness and around his, like so he can carry him. My grandfather got one thing on the guy. He said, if you pull your feet out of this little wagon, the bet's off. And the guy was kind of big. And so, yeah, it was like hours, like 8 hours it took for my grandfather. But, that tells how stubborn we are. He did the whole thing. But that's not what I'm here to tell you about. I used to live in Lexington, Kentucky, and I lived on Main Street in the basement of this brownstone house. It was a really nice little house, and the Woodland Park was between me and Kroger's. And I decided one morning I was going to go get me some food at Kroger's. So I'm walking across Woodland Park there, and all of a sudden I get this eerie feeling that someone is following me. So I turn around, and sure enough, a squirrel is following me. And I stop and I look at that squirrel, and that squirrel comes and runs up my leg. I'm standing there with a squirrel on my leg, and I'm thinking, how am I going to get the squirrel off me? And so the squirrel obliged and climbed down. So I go on up to Kroger's, and I come back, and I decide to get some Spanish peanuts there at the Kroger, and in case I see the squirrel again. Isn't that funny how everybody got loud all of a sudden? Energy suckers. And so on the way back, again, I'm sure it was the same squirrel, meets me at the end of the sidewalk. So I walk up, and I have the nuts in my hand, and I bend down on one knee, and that squirrel comes and sits on my knee while I feed him. And I was worried about rabies and stuff. But anyway, so, yeah, but that's not what I'm here to tell you about. I'm here to tell you about one time my aunt told me this story. In the old days, she had a friend that her husband had died. She lived out in the country, but there was neighbors close by. And anyway, she was having a hard time sleeping after her husband died. And this one particular night, she was telling her, she said, it was storming, and it was, she couldn't sleep. I mean, the trees were rubbing against the roof of the, like the how it sounds when it's scratching against the roof, and rain was coming in, it was lightning and thunder, and she could not go to sleep. Well, this is back then before they had caller ID, and if someone called, you had to have your call traced, okay? So anyway, she finally falls asleep, and right away the phone rings, and she picks it up, and it's a woman's voice, and the woman says desperately, "Help, I need help," and it dies out. She does not recognize this woman. My aunt said her friend said she did not recognize the call at all. who it was, and then the phone rang again, and again it wasn't the same voice. Help me! You've got to help me! Help! And then it dies out because of the storm. Well, all right, so she's freaking out, and she decides, that doesn't call back again right away. And so she calls the operator. She decides she's going to call the operator and have the phone traced because she knows this person's in trouble. So she calls the operator and asks her. She said, "This woman is. I don't know who it is, but will you trace this call?" And the operator said, "Yes, we'll trace it. Give us some time because of the storm. It might take a little longer." Well, she didn't wait very much longer after she hung up, and the phone rang again, and she knows it's going to be this woman. She picks up the phone. My aunt was telling me, she told her she picked up the phone, and it wasn't the woman, it was the operator. The operator said, ma'am, and she has a shaky voice. She said, we traced this call. She said, it ended up being one of the telephone lines that it connected to was broke down, and the line was in the grounds of the cemetery. So anyway, why it's a liar's contest is the first two stories are real. Those really did happen. And the third one, which I told poorly, is a ghost story. All right, there's my squirrel stories. Love you.